it's not visible. It's not immediately
Yes.
visible, but it's
Yes.
there. So like people who complain about pronouns in Baldur's Gate have clearly not noticed the character builder having the option already to tell you to select male, female, or non-binary. So
Yes. Yep.
yeah, so I just wanted to point that out that it actually is already there. It's just that it's not immediately called out the same way Starfield does. So
Hmm.
people
Mhm.
don't kick up a fuss about it. And frankly, Baldur's Gate 3 is like very queer. So I think that people more appreciate it than kick up a fuss about it because
Yep.
they're like, oh, this is great. Like, I love that this thing gives me this customizable thing. It has non binary pronouns. That's fantastic. Hardly any game acknowledges it.
Yeah.
Then like a
True.
fuss about this. I think there was a Nexus mod that also added more pronouns because of
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of
There.
that because of that removing pronouns thing.
I love
Someone made
that.
a mod to add even more pronouns into it.
Yes. Which
Bless.
is spectacular.
But yeah, so just kind of adding on to that particular point. And I mean,
Hmm.
in terms of more races, it's more like more playable races. Like I want to be a bird person, but I also want to see like a Southeast Asian person like myself
Mhm.
be in feature in the game. Like it goes both ways. I want the skin tones to have like East Asian tones and like
Yeah.
Blasian
Yes.
Blasian tones, but also why can't I play a Kenku, an Aarakocra? Like you guys have birds, you can make birds, put them in the game
Right.
Is it? Does it go back to
as a
the?
furry, and also a
Oh,
yeah,
I was gonna say, does it
as
go
a
back
furry, but
to the
also a
issue
person
of
of color.
oh, yeah.
you know,
Sorry.
I love
that's
it.
kind of
Yeah.
like that's kind of where I was going with that. Just the inclusion of more
I
races.
love it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Does it go back to the issue of the most of the cool races didn't come out until after, like last year or two? Was it?
Yeah.
There was an
When did
expansion
Kenku
to
come
D
out?
and D. Kenku had been out for a while, but then they
Been
redid
out for a little
everything.
while.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did.
Then they reworked them, and yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
It might. That's definitely a valid. That's a valid thing to say. It might. Right. Timing is
Yeah.
everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that they can improve on.
Yeah, certainly they would, and I could easily see down the road. I don't know if anyone here has played Celeste: Crown of the Magister. It's a much smaller game, but it's a much more faithful porting of the 5e rule set
Mm-hmm.
for D&D. Um, and it was originally kickstarted, the base game, and they've gradually been over since the base game came out. They've gradually been adding more of the D&D races and more of the D&D classes and other elements that weren't there in the base game. So it's certainly something that we might see down the road from Baldur's Gate 3. So
Mm-hmm. That is very promising, and I mean there are also people who are modding the base models to add
Yeah.
more races. So I think I saw
yep,
one that was like I think kobolds and I'm not sure, I can't remember, but I think it was kobolds and Goliaths. So that's something that is possible. People have been modding it into the game. It's just a matter of
yeah,
whether or not it's supported by Larian. So it is promising that people are actually invested enough in the game to be like,
True.
if you aren't giving me the non-PHB races that aren't in the game, I'm gonna make them myself. So
yeah,
that's very promising. Like it shows how much people care about this game, that
Yeah.
they want to see the change that comes into it. And
yes,
that's great.
absolutely, 100%. Yeah, Solasta, which is it's a cool game. It's not anywhere near as extensive as Baldur's Gate, but that game actually has a builder where people can build their own stuff for the game, and then other people can play it. It's very similar to like the earlier versions of like Neverwinter and stuff like that, where people could mod stuff. And maybe we'll see something like that for Baldur's Gate. I would really like to see them maybe one day come out with some DLC that allowed you to like play as a goblin and then rewrote some of the elements of like the Goblin Village, or
Ooh,
like some of
yeah.
things like that. um, in the context of that, I think that would be a step in the right direction to kind of like, bring those things in together and start
Hmm.
addressing some of these things maybe in a DLC down the road.
curious. I feel like if it happened now and you could play Goblin, it would just be, oh, but you're the one special Goblin, aren't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You're the good
totally.
one.
You're
Hey,
the special little guy. That's
Yeah, totally would be.
I
Yeah,
like you.
Oh,
yeah,
the littlest guy ever.
yeah. You're one of the good ones.
It's that little scene or side quest in the game where you're in the mountains in the first or second act, and you meet this old woman who's trying to steal this Githyanki egg, and she
Yeah,
tells you, "I know they're not all bad, but if you just steal me one of their babies, I can raise it to be good, to be really good, uh, because
yeah.
science and
Yeah,
society or whatever she
it's
says."
actually that whole
Yeah.
scene is very similar to a kind of like 1980s Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd trading places because she wants to take the egg
Mm.
because there's a group and they have a debate